This page is the front cover of N64 Pro, proudly declaring itself the official, world's biggest N64 mag. Bold claims indeed. Front and center is the main feature, hyping up a review for Silicon Valley, calling it insanely addictive and even biggest in the galaxy. Count, crikey, high praise there. Sounds like they really liked that weird sheep game. Count. Also splashed across the cover are reviews for the finished Zelda, must be Ocarina of Time, finally getting the full review treatment, and Turok 2, two absolute heavy hitters. They've also got a section for games they've apparently played to death, listing Wipeout 64, Extreme G2, SCARS, QB Club 99, and Let's Smash. Looks like someone's thumbs are sore. Warrington Nuss. There's also a mention of a new look for the magazine and the promise of a free calendar and 6 posters, always a bonus back in the day, and a competition to win a color Game Boy, getting a bit of handheld action squeezed into the N64 pages. All in all, a packed cover, teasing some seriously big reviews. This N64 fan magazine issue kicks off with official keychains, including a controller, clock, and voice recorder. The editor welcomes readers, praising the N64's games and the magazine's improvement. The lads share humorous and aspirational New Year's resolutions, ranging from fashion to gaming goals. Finally, the magazine lays out its 8 commandments, promising honest reviews, news, cheats, reader interaction, and expert writing, focusing on top games. It's a strong introduction to the year and the magazine's values. This page, the contents spread for January 1999, is absolutely packed. You've got a chance to win some cracking purple Game Boy colors, or portacompos as they're calling them. Imagine fitting a whole console in your pocket. Blimey, there's a feature guide to get you started in Hyrule with Link. Essential stuff if you ask me. And a free 1999 calendar, featuring the cream of the N64 crop, perfect for brightening up your bedroom. The regular section is the usual good stuff. News, coming soon dates to plan your year, leagues tomfoolery, the all-important tips, codes and cheats. Agent Tip X sounds like a right lad. And letters from you lot in, you reckon? They're also revealing how to squash the bugs in Body Harvest, which I remember could be a bit glitchy. The reviews section is promising a top game overload, covering everything from the legendary Zelda, Ocarina of Time to the madcap Silicon Valley, plus Turok 2, Wipeout 64, and more. Can't wait to see what they thought of Let's Smash. The blueprint dives into Konami's offerings like Castlevania and Mystical Ninja 2, and Duke Nukem. 0 Hour is back, promising big guns and an even bigger attitude, naturally. Finally, the cover story is all about Silicon Valley, described as one of the most insane, inspired, and unnervingly sinister games around. Looks like a bonkers good time, that one. Daft as a brush, indeed. This page, it's a cracking full-page advert for Rally 99 showing a proper muddy car wheel and the N64 console, promising proper rally action on Nintendo 64. This page. Right then, leading the charge here we've got the new lead newshound, a press-savvy dog who's been promoted and is promising to sniff out all the hottest news for us gamers every month. Bless his cotton socks, the big story seems to be all about Michael Owen's World League Soccer 99, or WLS 99 as they're calling it. There are loads of screenshots showing the action, and the text is raving about it, comparing it favorably to ISS and FIFA. They're promising tons of graphical and gameplay improvements over the PlayStation version, with features like improved AI, and the chance to create your own league. Looks like they reckon it's going to be pretty special, almost as exciting as watching Michael Owen himself apparently. Over on the right we've got the charts, and would you believe it, Zelda? Ocarina of Time is absolutely dominating, sitting pretty at the top of both the UK chart and N64 Pro's most played. Turok 2 and Body Harvest are strong contenders as well. In the game's most wanted section, South Park 64 and Star Wars Rogue Squadron are high up on the list. They've got some cracking pictures alongside the charts too, showing Link from Zelda and the South Park gang. It's a good snapshot of what was hot and what was coming up back then. This page. Right then, moving on from the charts and that fancy football game, we land on a proper competition page. Our new newshound, Scoop, is already living up to his name, digging up some cracking prizes for us. What's on offer? None other than 5 lovely colour Game Boys, and bless 'em, they're even throwing in 2 games with each. You get Bugs Bunny and Lola Bunny, Operation Carrot Patch and Sylvester and Tweety, Breakfast on the Run, proper classic Looney Tunes fun on the go, Canaise. The entry method is straightforward enough. Crack the crossword they've provided, with those extra clues for loyal readers naturally. Fill out the form with your details and pop it in the post. Seems they don't want to make it too difficult to get your paws on these goodies. There's a little snippet about 64 Pro delving deeper into the color Game Boy world next issue, so plenty more handheld chat to come. Over on the right, just a brief nod to Starshot, Space Circus Fever looking all starry and mysterious. Looks like a bit of light relief from the usual N64 heavy hitters. This page. Alright, so we've got N64 Pro teaming up with HMV here, flogging the Game Boy Color and some games. You can see a good stack of titles pictured there, like Tetris, Super Mario Bros., Rampage, NFL Blitz, and a few Looney Tunes outings. They're running offers, giving you a few quid off the console and certain featured games if you pop into HMV. Over in the middle, we've got a giveaway for something a bit different, Batman Thrill Killer. They reckon it's a cracking read to stick your nose in between your heavy N64 sessions. It's an Elseworld story from DC Comics, looks like a dark take on the Bat family. 5 copies up for grabs just for writing in, Tay-D, and then, taking up the rest of the space, it's that Starshot, Space Circus Fever game we saw a tiny mention of before. Looks like a platformer, the universe has a new hero apparently, and this one juggles. He's saving Space Circus from the evil Virtua Circus across 7 planets. Nothing on Earth will prepare you apparently. Looks colorful, certainly. This gaming magazine issue highlights Star Wars, Rogue Squadron, promising pure dogfighting action with X-Wings and TIE Fighters. The magazine is excited about the upcoming release, hinting at a significant impact on gamers. Turok 2 is also noted as an expensive purchase. The magazine praises The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, calling it a gaming masterpiece. Reader challenges include identifying Scoop Doggy Dog and becoming the first Ocarina of Time completer. The magazine also seeks reader reviewers for featured content. Scoop's Game Gallery showcases upcoming titles like Wild Metal Country, Vehicle Combat, Rat Attack, Rats vs. Cats, All-Star Tennis, 99, Perfect Dark, highly anticipated, and Nightmare Creatures, Spooky Fighter. Scoop, a dog game enthusiast, praises the game's visuals and gameplay, particularly highlighting the dangly objects in Wild Metal Country and the feline-focused action in Rat Attack. Perfect Dark, from Rare, is deemed the most anticipated, while Nightmare Creatures gives Scoop the creeps. Release dates range from January to late 1999. This page is absolutely packed with the release schedule for the N64, showing off just how many cracking games were on the horizon for 1999. The intro gets you hyped, telling you to grab your pads because it's going to be a wild ride with a massive amount of new games. The schedule itself covers December 1998, right through to be announced titles for 1999, proving the N64 wasn't slowing down one bit. They also spotlight a few upcoming heavy hitters. Star Wars, Rogue Squadron looks immense, even if they are taking their sweet time getting it out. Quake 2 gets a shout-out as the best shoot-'em-up on PC, promising a perfect conversion. High hopes there then. And then there's the completely bonkers-looking Tonic Trouble, with those weird corn and pea characters. The text jokes about trying to stay sane until it arrives, which seems fitting for a game that looks like that. The must-buy section highlights Turok 2, Seeds of Evil, calling it a stunning shooter, which it certainly was, and of course, Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. They reckon Zelda is the biggest game ever, and honestly, they weren't far wrong, were they? What an absolute masterpiece. Down at the bottom, Snowboard Kids 2 is bubbling under, apparently stopping work in the office, which is the sign of a good sequel. Looks like 1999 was going to be a monumental year for the N64 library. This article analyzes N64 game publishers through a Pro Software House League system, ranking them based on reviews. Nintendo leads the Premier League, with Acclaim and Infogrames also performing well. Lower divisions contain publishers with weaker releases. A Reader's Dream Team highlights upcoming titles like Zelda, Ocarina of Time, Turok 2, and the 64DD, along with other anticipated games. The overall quality of N64 games is mixed, with some excellent releases, 25%, alongside average and poor ones. EA receives praise for Madden 99 and NHL 99, competing with top titles like Turok 2 and Shadowman. The article includes screenshots of various games. This gaming magazine preview boasts reviews of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, Space Station, Silicon Valley, and Turok 2, Seeds of Evil. Reviewers praise Zelda as a divine masterpiece, Silicon Valley for its humor, and Turok 2 for its intense action. Reviews highlight individual reactions, with Steve struggling with Silicon Valley, Noelle loving Zelda, and Mark enjoying Turok 2 and other titles. Lewis focuses on sports games, while Dan plays NFL Quarterback Club 99. A scoring system, including the Sore Thumb Award, is detailed, along with review criteria covering graphics, sound, gameplay, and replay value. Full reviews follow. This page launches into the epic review of Legend of Zelda, the Ocarina of Time, boldly questioning if it's the best game ever right from the off. Our man Noelle, who we already know was dead keen on this one, is clearly buzzing, telling Mario, GoldenEye, and even Banjo to jog on, because Link is back to take his crown. It's kicked off with the prestigious Sore Thumb Award, so you know it's a winner. The reviewer immediately draws you into the world, comparing it to Tolkien, and raving about how immersive it is, especially riding Epona across Hyrule Field. There are cool screenshots showing Link meeting Princess Zelda in Hyrule Castle, apparently after a dramatic start involving a rather nasty-looking chap in black armor. There's also a funny quote bubble joke about halitosis, which is typical Zelda humor. They highlight some clever puzzles, like using a Deku stick to light torches, which is a nice callback to the older games but done brilliantly in 3D. The quote about Hyrule feeling so alive you can almost feel the cart squirming in your hand really drives home the sense of connection and immersion. And of course they show you the N64 controller layout, mapping out all the buttons from attacking with B to defending with R and using those handy C buttons. Looks like this one's a bit special then, eh? This page carries on with the Ocarina of Time review, giving us a proper look at more of the game's features. It highlights the ocarina again, explaining how you get it, and use its songs for all sorts of magical effects like calling Epona or messing with time. A brilliant musical touch added to the puzzles. You get a glimpse of some of the big beasties with the I'm the Boss section, showing off Goma and King Dodongo. Looks like the bosses are as fearsome and epic as ever in Zelda. They also demonstrate the day/night cycle in Hyrule Field, which isn't just for show. Apparently it gets quite spooky with enemies popping up after dark. The review points out how vast the world is, showing iconic spots like the Great Deku Tree and Hyrule Castle, and mentions loads of side activities like fishing and horse riding that stop it ever getting boring. It really captures that familiar, sprawling Zelda feel in glorious 3D. Oh, and there's a brief, slightly crude joke about the 64DD version's dungeons being rather compact. Finally, you get a rundown of some of the characters you'll encounter, in Friend or Foe. Expect to see faces like Princess Zelda, Adult Link, and the nasty Ganondorf, alongside a whole host of weird and wonderful creatures from Gorons and Zoras to skeletons and those creepy Triffid plants. And don't forget your fellow Kokiri elves too. This page carries on with the review, kicking off with a section rather cheekily titled, Pointy Breasts, which thankfully turns out to be about Link's many moves and animations rather than anything else. It highlights his versatility, from walking and running to all the combat maneuvers and even just idly adjusting his sword. Then there's a chat about Navi, the hairy fairy as they call her, though thankfully not Dale Winton, who acts as your guide and companion. The review praises the ingenious targeting system, explaining how Navi helps you lock onto targets, and how a quick tap of the Z trigger keeps you facing the action, absolutely crucial for combat in this game. You also get a look at the shooting gallery minigame in Hyrule Market. Looks like classic carnival fun, testing your aim. Plus, there's a glimpse of Link growing up and getting a bit more testing game muscular, as well as a couple of shots of boss encounters, including that rather large fishy monster. They also touch upon a scene called Dueling Harps, which apparently reminds the reviewer of something from Deliverance, rather bizarrely, but introduces you to the mysterious Sheik, who teaches Link songs vital for warping around the world. And finally, a cracking quote declaring there's far more charm in Link than in 100 drab angular-limbed Laras, pointy polygon breasts or not. Preach! And ending on a funny note, with Link having a slightly awkward conversation with Epona about eating horses. Brilliant. A Zelda review praises the game's intuitive stuff and nonsense inventory system, highlighting its improvement over Link to the Past. Screenshots showcase the satisfying treasure-finding experience and Link's stealth challenges within Hyrule Castle. The review culminates in a near-perfect 98% score, calling it the best Zelda ever, with only minor deductions for some repetitive elements. Graphics, sound, gameplay, and lasting appeal all receive perfect 10 out of 10 scores. The review strongly recommends purchasing the game. This page is all about the absolutely bonkers space station, Silicon Valley, which the magazine cheekily dubs more twisted than a room full of serial killers. Playing Twister. Apparently you're a microchip that was inside a robot, but his body's been blown off in an accident. Your goal? Get it back by possessing dead animals and solving puzzles with your mate, who thankfully still has all his limbs. The review reassures you it's not what you think, explaining the core mechanic is simply transferring the microchip from one dead animal to another. No messy fluids involved, promise. The screenshots show off the game's unique look, with kangaroos and sheep doing strange things. The reviewer praises its daffy, demented nature, calling it another N64 exclusive that'll make PlayStation owners green with envy because it's more fun than a stack of Spyro games. They even note that around every garishly colored corner lies a gasp, a giggle or a guffaw. It's even bagged a Sore Thumb Award winner badge. There's a helpful diagram showing the N64 controller, explaining how you make your microchip jump between animals, move the character you're controlling, zoom the camera, and perform each animal's two specific actions like jumping, flying, or whatever else is needed. Sounds like a right laugh, doesn't it? The next page continues the review of the utterly bonkers space station, Silicon Valley, declaring it barking mad. It highlights the game's unique premise where you control a microchip, the Evo Stick, jumping into different dead robotic animals, each with its own daft abilities. The screenshots show everything from tiny characters on giant landscapes to dogs on wheels and puzzling scenarios involving lava. The review text praises the fiendishly addictive gameplay, suggesting you won't want to stop playing, and mentions specific examples like herding sheep or even possessing a hippo. The opposite page is dedicated to animal quackers, showcasing a wild assortment of the various animals you can inhabit, from bears and lions to kangaroos and a rather stressed-looking blue rabbit who's apparently a husky. It confirms each animal has its own moves, making the gameplay constantly fresh and chaotic. It cheekily wraps up with a quote about making PlayStation owners green with envy, summing up the game's exclusive N64 charm. This page continues the look at Space Station, Silicon Valley, and crikey, they've given it a massive 92%. The main quote declares it gets under your skin and just doesn't want to let go. It delves into the wacky wildlife aspect, showing off some truly bizarre creations like those magnificent dogs in their flying machines, an armored tortoise that can take on elephants, and a polar bear that's more like a tank. There's also a rather annoyed-looking camel, and a boxing kangaroo that looks ready for a rumble. The review highlights the crazy variety and challenge, stating you'll be tossing and turning at night figuring out how to beat it. It confirms there's no multiplayer, but if you're an old-school solo gamer who likes a proper challenge that lasts, then this is for you. The details praise the gameplay as fantastic stuff, giving it a 9/10, and the lasting appeal gets a perfect 10 out of 10. They reckon you'll have torn every hair out by the time you're done. Seems like a proper brain twister with hilarious moments. Turok 2, Seeds of Evil is a brutal first-person shooter, described as big, bold, and bloodthirsty. The reviewer praises the game's impressive graphics, especially the velociraptor animations, and the gory action, comparing it favorably to GoldenEye. The single-player story involves Turok traversing a portal to save children and recover power cells. Multiplayer is lauded as the best two-player shooter since GoldenEye, promising intense N64-style action. The game is clearly designed for a mature audience. This page delves further into the brutal world of Turok 2, Seeds of Evil, giving us a look at the game's levels, from harbors to caves and mazes. The review highlights the visual experience, calling it eyesores, and noting how the world goes from light-sourced exteriors to dark, scary interiors, where enemies are just black outlines. The sound design gets a nod too, enhancing the eerie atmosphere. The reviewer points out that the dinosaurs aren't just fodder, they apparently scream with anger when they spot you, and even gargle on their own blood when shot. Charming. While the AI for lesser foes might be a bit thick, the graphics really shine, especially with that N64 expansion pack, making things look lovely and sharp. We also get a rundown of the arsenal in the arm to the teeth section, showing off everything from basic talons and a bow, to slightly more exotic weaponry like the cerebral bore, which, shall we say, is rather effective at making a mess. The sniper shot feature using the tech bow is demonstrated, showing you can pop heads clean off from a distance. All in all, it sounds like Turok 2 delivers on the promise of gory, atmospheric dinosaur hunting action. Turok 2, Seeds of Evil receives a 94% review, praising its massive, detailed levels, 6 main areas plus a hub. Enemies exhibit cunning tactics, reacting to player actions in both single and multiplayer modes. Graphics, sound, and gameplay are highly praised, with the reviewer comparing it favorably to GoldenEye. However, the save system is a significant drawback, consuming a substantial amount of controller memory. This page is all about Let's Smash, a Japanese release that's clearly not your average tennis game. The review kicks off talking about mind-numbing action and slap racket tennis, calling it pure gameplay and simple to pick up as a 40-year-old slapper. Apparently, it features strapping young men in tight white shorts, whacking their balls back and forth, which the reviewer jokes sounds painful. It highlights the quirky, wide-eyed characters and a creator-player feature. Beyond the standard tennis, there are mini-games like hitting a grinning Daruma, whacking drums, returning balls from machines, and hitting tiles on a panel. But the real highlight, or perhaps lowlight depending on your view, is the challenge mode option for strip tennis, where you play for each other's clothes. They even show screenshots of this slightly bizarre feature, noting it's the most unusual part of the game. It even snagged a Sore Thumb Award winner badge, so you know you'll be hammering those buttons. Let's Smash is a unique tennis game with diverse characters, each with different stats. The game features a customizable N64 controller layout, and the controversial Get 'em Off feature, allowing players to dress characters in girls' clothes. Beyond the questionable attire, the game boasts a variety of quirky challenge courts, including ones atop buildings, in volcanic craters, and on ice fields. Unlockable costumes add to the fun. The review praises the intuitive controls, diverse shots, inventive game modes, and multiplayer options, giving it a 92% score, with a perfect 10 out of 10 for gameplay, and a strong 9/10 for lasting appeal. Reviewers feel it's surprisingly good, potentially surpassing the Saints' Super Tennis. The next page dives headfirst into Extreme G2, a racer so fast it sounds like it'll give you a proper headache if you're not sharp. The review kicks off by warning you about the sheer speed and the unpleasant consequences of hitting a wall or getting blown up by homing missiles from the bloke behind you. Apparently this game is faster than Speedy Gonzales after a serious caffeine hit, and does rather strange things to a man's bowels. Charming. There's a look at the various rides in the Rumble Pack, featuring a whole stable of unique bikes, each looking like it's fresh off the futuristic scrap heap and armed to the teeth. You've got plenty of choice for causing mayhem. They also touch on the battle arenas, promising explosive multiplayer fun where dodging railguns is key, and a peculiar arc at him mode that involves blasting annoying flying nuisances. This overhaul of the original sounds like it's nailed the speed and chows, delivering a wild ride that'll keep you on your toes. This page continues the deep dive into Extreme G2. It kicks off with a look at the weaponry, confirming you've got a proper arsenal strapped to these bikes, enough to make sure the competition knows you mean business, and that second place just isn't an option. We then see how you recharge all those lovely lasers and shields in the Charge for Assault section, showing you need to hit ramps to get to the power-ups scattered around the tracks. Gotta keep topped up, obviously. The main event is the big score, and Extreme G2 pulls in a solid 88%, with the review stating it's an enjoyably furious racer, great for blasting mates, even if it has a few flaws. The details break it down further. Graphics and gameplay score an 8/10, while sound gets a slightly less impressive 7/10, and lastability is a strong 9/10. There's a look at the Greasy Riders, who are apparently the bunch of unsavory characters you can race as. Don't worry, there's plenty of oddballs to choose from. Finally, Failure Flambe shows what happens when things go wrong, depicting a bike meeting a rather explosive end. Looks painful that. They even throw in a quick comparison to F-Zero X and some other opinions on the game, giving it a generally positive reception. Looks like a decent shout if you like your racers fast and loud. This page dives into the world of American football with a review of NFL Quarterback Club 99. The reviewer kicks things off with a typical sarcastic dig about the complexity of the sport, but quickly admits that despite that the game itself is quite good. In fact, as far as American football games go, it's very good. They praise the graphics, calling them gorgeous and spanky, thanks to a new hires mode and polygon engine. While they note the players can look a bit similar, you can tell who's who by the names on their shirts, and the game offers deep character creation options if you fancy making a player of any size. The level of detail sounds immense. It includes all the real NFL teams, tons of real players and stadiums, plus the game strategy is apparently based on the guy who runs the New York Jets offense. Referee decisions are even based on the official NFL head of officials. They reckon it's as complete as you'd ever want a sport game to be. There's a look at the controller, showing you all the essential moves like snaps, passes and tackles, and a rather amusing little comic strip following a fellow trying to nick a real NFL ball. Seems like a cracking title if you're into your gridiron action. This page continues the review of NFL Quarterback Club 99, giving it a solid 84%. They acknowledge it's an improvement on the previous version, particularly in graphics, and it's packed with stats for the truly dedicated fans, though the reviewer personally found that a bit dull. But underneath, they say, it's a solid American football simulation. Ultimately, they think only big fans will dive deep into this one. Looking at the details, the overhauled graphics get a 9/10, making it look lovely. The sound is decent, 7/10, and while the gameplay might feel a bit remote for some, 8/10, the attention to detail will please the purists. Lastability is good with all the options, unless you just hate American football, 7/10. They also suggest NFL Blitz as a more arcadey alternative. Finally, there are brief opinions from other reviewers who generally liked it, though some preferred the arcade feel of Blitz, or even ISS over American football sims entirely. The other half of the page is taken up by an advert for a Nintendo 64 tidy cabinet for £29.99 plus postage. It's a simple white cabinet designed to store your console, games, and controllers, and it's apparently strong enough to sit your TV on. Magazines apparently called it an absolute bargain and good-looking unit. Looks like a handy bit of kit for keeping your N64 setup neat and tidy. This page is all about the anti-gravity racing action of Wipeout 64. The big headline sets the tone, promising blistering speed. The review, penned by James, discusses the game's heritage on PlayStation, but highlights its move to the N64, suggesting it's a polished and improved version of a classic, even better than 2097 according to the text. There are multiple screenshots showing the futuristic tracks and ships in action, accompanied by captions that offer insights into the gameplay, handling, and power-ups like the autopilot pickup. The article touches on the feel of the anti-gravity handling, which was often tricky in the past, and mentions the array of weapons available. A handy diagram shows the button layout for controlling your craft on the N64 controller. Picking up a sore thumb award suggests the game is intensely playable. Overall, it sounds like Wipeout 64 is a strong addition to the N64 library, praised for its improvements and classic racing feel. This page wraps up the Wipeout 64 review, and boy does it wrap it up well. Slapping a mighty 92% on it, the mag explains why this anti-grav beauty scores so high. It's apparently taken the best bits from the original and 2097 on the old PlayStation, chucked in some shiny new graphics, mind-bending tracks, and crucially, sorted the handling out. Sounds like it's a proper enjoyable ride. Healers. The details back this up, giving cracking scores for graphics, sound, shout out to Propellerheads, and gameplay looks like you'll need quick reactions, but you'll have a blast doing it. Lastability gets a solid 8, so it'll keep your thumbs busy. There's a look at the 4 main craft under the 4 for Fun banner, giving you a hint at their different stats, like one being a great all-rounder, or another being fast in takeoff. And check out the Rucking Good section with more action shots. The captions there are gold, like nearly puking up your butt cheeks or questioning if a pit lane is just a mirage. Other views chime in, with a few different takes, some comparing it to Fi0x or the PlayStation versions. One reader even reckons it's worth getting special glasses for. Now that's dedication. Sounds like it's gone down a treat all round. SEZDARS, a supercomputer animal racing simulation, promises a unique experience. The game features animal-themed cars, dynamic environments shifting between terrains like ice and sun, and various weaponry. Reviewers praise the graphics, describing them as stunning, and highlighting the game's speed, claiming it runs faster than a blazingly fast Linford Christie. Players can choose from 9 different animal cars, each with characteristics reflecting their respective animal inspiration. The emphasis is on survival of the fittest racing, with cars seemingly stuck on their sides and engines shoved up their rear ends. The game seems to offer chaotic and visually appealing racing action. SCARS, a racing game for the N64, receives high praise for its stunning visuals, 10 out of 10, impressive sound, 9/10, and enjoyable gameplay, 8/10. The reviewer highlights the game's speed, varied tracks, including underwater sections, and robust multiplayer mode, 7/10. While comparing favorably to F-Zero-X and Mario Kart, they note the controls, which can be challenging due to the twisty tracks and tendency to slide. The game features a wide array of power-ups, and a varied Grand Prix/challenge mode. Overall, the game is considered a fun and visually impressive racer. This page kicks off the cheat zone, promising all sorts of juicy secrets for your N64 games. Apparently there's some shady alien called Tipex trying to steal all the best gaming cheats, but luckily, They've been tracked down and are being shared right here. We've got a solid selection of games covered. For Mission Impossible, there's a whole bunch of cheats listed, including unlimited health, big heads, tiny characters, and even a Benny Hill mode. Sounds absolutely bonkers. Definitely worth checking out. Over on the other side, there's a code for Forsaken 64 that grants you invincibility, perfect for laying waste to those Pion cyclists without a scratch. If you're still plugging away at Mario 64, there's a neat little trick detailed that can net you infinite lives just by bouncing back and forth near a specific tree and waterfall. A classic little exploit that helps you power through. And for the football fans, specifically IS SNIN-E8, there's a scoring strategy outlined to help you bag a goal almost every single time, which sounds pretty useful if you're trying to dominate the league. Melee. There's even a handy diagram showing off all the buttons on the N64 controller, which is perfect if you're new to the system or just need a quick reminder of where everything is for those cheat codes. Looks like a good haul of secrets this month. This page continues a deep dive into N64 cheat codes. Iggy's Wrecking Balls features a cheat menu for unlocking characters and altering gameplay. 1080 Degrees Snowboarding reveals tips for turbo starts and unique borders. Banjo-Kazooie players learn to earn codes from bottles and get an extra life. WWF Warzone offers reader-submitted tips for custom wrestler creation, including some surprising designs. F-Zero X unlocks the X-Cup, and F1 World Grand Prix lets you access hidden content and special cars. The page encourages readers to submit their own discoveries. This page kicks off a beginner's guide to The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. It's presented as a quick sampler of Kokiri Forest, just to get you started before a bigger guide comes later. You've got a map showing key locations like the entrance, where Mido blocks your path. Typical Mido really doesn't like you anyway. The training center for brushing up on your sword skills, and where to snag the essential Kokiri sword. There's also a mention of the shop to buy that all-important Deku shield. Gotta have it before tackling the Deku Tree dungeon. The screenshots show Link in the forest, and inside the shop. The guide then dives into the first 2 floors of the Deku Tree itself, walking you through getting the dungeon map and the fairy slingshot, and how to deal with those pesky Deku scrubs by bouncing their own nuts back at them. It's a solid start to Link's epic journey. This page continues the epic adventure in The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time guide, picking up right where we left off. Inside the Great Deku Tree, you'll find step-by-step instructions for navigating the dungeon's upper and lower levels. It covers the 3rd floor, showing you how to tackle switch puzzles and get the compass, before taking a daring drop down the central tree trunk. Down in Basement 1, you're wading through water, using Deku sticks to carry flames for torch puzzles, beating those cheeky Deku scrubs, and getting that vital 231 clue for later, pay attention, and manipulating water levels. The guide then leads you to Basement 2, where you'll face off against the final set of Deku scrubs who need dispatching in that specific order you were given. Once they're dealt with, it's time for the big boss, the parasitic armored arachnid Goma. There are plenty of screenshots showing you the strategy. Waiting for her eye to glow, hitting it to stun her, and then laying into her while she's vulnerable. Don't forget to smash those eggs she drops while she's vulnerable. Finally, the Bon Voyage section wraps things up, detailing Link's bittersweet departure from Kokiri Forest after saving the Deku Tree, heading off to Hyrule Castle to meet Princess Zelda, and a tearful farewell to Saria. It's a proper send-off from the first dungeon. This page kicks off a guide for the classic N64 title, Body Harvest. Remember saving the world from those alien scum? Good times. Right here, we're diving into the Greece levels with a clear walkthrough. It starts with a map overview, showing numbered points of interest for both Stage 1 and Stage 2 so you know exactly where you're heading. Stage 1 starts you off outside the shield wall, guiding you through villages, dealing with harvesting waves, figuring out how to lower that bridge, and heading towards the fire station. You'll need to find bombs and tackle a boulder, blocking your path up a mountain road. Classic adventure stuff. You even have to get a fire engine from the Firemaster during an emergency, which is a neat touch. Stage 2 takes you to new areas, starting near a monastery, where you can learn some history. You'll encounter the imposing Talos statues, and need to find a legendary sun shield to activate them and cross a river. The guide takes you through tunnels, past abandoned hangars, and eventually to a water gate. The ultimate goal here is to take down the Processor, one of those nasty alien bosses. There are screenshots showing some of the action, including aerial combat. It's a proper step-by-step breakdown to ensure you don't get lost trying to save humanity. The Body Harvest Guide for Greece's Stage 3 details a journey through villages, waterways, caves and temples, culminating in a confrontation with the processor boss. Players must navigate river crossings, locate artifacts, and face harvesting waves. Aircraft are crucial for defeating the processor. Stage 4, the generator stage, focuses on destroying the shield generator. Finally, a power core showdown with the ultimate boss awaits. The guide includes a key item list and a departing alien message, hinting at future installments. This page jumps straight into a rough guide for the Japanese import title, Let's Smash. Clearly, if you grabbed this one early without knowing the lingo, getting stuck into the challenge or tournament modes was a bit of a mystery. The secret, apparently, is building your own player first. The guide walks you through the character building process, showing screenshots of the menus, including how to change the language from what they hilariously call Martian, Japanese, to English, customizing appearance, and even deciding between shorts and stockings, because that's clearly crucial for your tennis game. There's a section on the different courts in Take the Challenge, showing a rooftop court, a desert court requiring plenty of water, in the game presumably, and an ice court with penguins. Mad stuff. They also touch on the player attributes like serve, smashing, volley, rove, stroke, and spin, giving a little rundown of what each one means for your digital ace. Down the bottom, there's a look at the cross-dressing for kicks options. Yes, you read that right. Showing off some rather unique outfits you can dress your character in, from formal wear to bunny suits. Finally, there's a peek at the minigame/maxi fun and the standard regular matches, including knockout tournaments and practice modes to sharpen those skills. Looks like good fun, even if the menus needed a guide like this. This page kicks off a Konami special, posing the big question, 2D or not 2D. It seems we're diving into the world of scares from the company known for more than just football games, apparently deserving an OB for ISS 98 alone. The main focus is squarely on Castlevania 64. They're saying it's been over a decade since the original Belmont first battered Dracula, and frankly, the Count's gaff has seen more action than Joan Collins' knickers since then. This one takes the series into the third dimension, with the usual vampire hunting duties falling to Schneider Belmont, a descendant of the original Simon, and a new character, Carrie Fernandez, who sounds like she's got some psychic powers. The game promises plenty of blood-pumping action, and suggests these new 3D adventures allow for lots more. Whippery. Looks like the classic formula is getting a modern update. Konami's N64 games are getting a look. Castlevania 64, a terrifying 3D action title with gothic environments and challenging nighttime combat, is praised visually but may not be fully polished. Hybrid Heaven, a futuristic RPG/beat-em-up/adventure, boasts impressive fight animations in its subterranean New York setting. Finally, Go-Man 2, a return to 2D side-scrolling action, promises a nostalgic experience, ditching the previous game's 3D engine for a classic SNES feel. Multiplayer co-op and familiar characters like Go-Man, Ebisu, Sasuke, and Yae are highlighted. This page is all about Duke Nukem 0 Hour, a game coming to the N64 from Euro.com and GT Interactive. The big news here is that Duke's making the jump to a third-person perspective, which is a bit different from the usual first-person action we're used to with him or games like GoldenEye. Duke's still the same wisecracking hero though, here to kick ass and chew gum. The plot involves aliens messing with history using time travel, so Duke has to chase them through different eras to save his own future. This means he gets to sport some cracking outfits, including a cowboy, military, apocalypse, and even a rather dapper Victorian look. They show off a selection of the weapons you'll be getting your hands on. Duke never travels light, does he? The screenshots give you a peek at the action across various levels, highlighting the new camera system that keeps Duke firmly in view. The article reckons the trademark Duke humor is alive and well, which is always a bonus. Looks like it's shaping up to be a solid entry for the N64, promising plenty of Duke's signature style and alien-bashing fun. This page is where the best of Britain show us all how it's done on the N64. It's the high scores section, giving you the chance to see who's top dog in various games and achievements. They've got a cracking selection covered here, mind you, everything from classics like GoldenEye 007 and Mario 64, to racers, such as Diddy Kong Racing and Extreme G. You've also got Banjo-Kazooie, Snowboard Kids, Wii Tricks, Forsaken, and even ISS 64 making an appearance. You can see screenshots of the games, alongside photos of the players, who've managed to get these impressive scores and times. It's a good look at the dedication some folks had back then to truly mastering these titles. This month's winner, proudly displayed, is Adam Lamb from Leicestershire. Fair play to him, looking chuffed with himself, and rightly so. getting his face and achievements highlighted like that. And for those of us thinking we could challenge these scores, there's a section explaining how you can get your own name and photo into the magazine. It wasn't quite as simple as hitting a share button back then, you know. A proper old-school entry process. This page is dominated by a big advert. On one side you've got a mail-order shop selling N64 consoles, loads of games and accessories. The other side is plugging the magazine subscription itself, featuring a rather familiar-looking chap telling you to subscribe. This page is another cracking mail-order place, Department 1 this time, setting out their stall for buying, selling and exchanging your old games. They're covering a fair few bases here, mind you, not just N64 like that other lot, but also Game Boy, Dreamcast and even the Neo Geo Pocket. They've got lists of software prices buying and selling for various regions, though wading through all that data is a chore, isn't it? Far more interesting is the N64 Passport Plus adapter they're flogging. Proper bit of kit that lets you get stuck into those juicy Japanese and American imports on your PAL console. Nifty! Plus adapter. They explain their exchange system, basically giving you cash or credit depending on whether you're just selling or part exchanging. Sensible enough. And look, they're even hiring. If you fancied a job flogging games back in the day, here's where you'd apply apparently. You get some classic artwork dotted around too, like Rogue Squadron tearing it up, Castlevania 64 looking moody, and a rather cheerful bunch of Nintendo keyrings you could grab for a few quid. All in all, a solid place to shift some old plastic or pick up something new. What? Well, new to you anyway. This page is all about catching up on those classic N64 Pro issues you might have missed back in the day. For just £3 each, which was pretty good value, you could get your hands on some cracking reads. They're showing off a few of the covers here, like the absolute legendary Zelda issue, Banjo-Kazooie, Body Harvest, and even that big Christmas edition with Zelda 64 featured again. You just filled out the form down the bottom, picked your issue, or issues, and sent it off with your payment details. A great way to fill out your collection, assuming they still had any left. Elsewhere on the page there are a few other bits and bobs trying to get your attention. You could place your own advert here, apparently. There are adverts for places like Gamesters and Wild Imports, offering up used games and imports across different consoles like N64, PlayStation, and Saturn. Handy if you were after a bargain or wanted to shift some old plastic. And who could forget the premium rate phone lines for cheats and tips? Ringing those probably cost you a bomb but got you through some sticky spots. There's even an ad for those N64 backup devices if you were feeling a bit cheeky. This page is all about sorting out your N64 collection through the mighty swap shop. If you've got a pile of games gathering dust, this is where you could get rid of them or pick up something new. They've got the wanted list showing everyone's craving classics like Banjo-Kazooie and Mission Impossible, while the not wanted section hilariously puts poor Super Mario 64 and Lilac Wars on blast as games people were trying to ditch. Bit harsh on Matza if you ask me. Warranted it. Readers were diving in with all sorts of offers, swapping GoldenEye for snowboard kids, flogging strategy guides, trading racing games and sports titles, or trying to blag something better as seen in the Blag of the Month. It was a proper digital marketplace for shifting plastic and getting your hands on some highly sought-after cartridges. You could send in your own ad using the form at the bottom, detailing what you wanted to swap or sell, keeping it brief to fit the space. A cracking way to keep the N64 collection fresh back in the day. This page is where the readers have their say. Under the banner of You Reckon, we've got the editor character looking ready to tackle the postbag, inviting readers to keep sending in those letters and photos. Good stuff! Visually, the page is dominated by some absolutely stunning artwork from The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, featuring Link, Zelda, and Ganon-looking epic, with a N64 and the expansion pack thrown in there for good measure. There's even a cheeky little picture of Rayman. The letters cover a few hot topics. We have readers singing the magazine's praises, which is fair enough, obviously the best one out there. People are asking about game delays, particularly the mighty Zelda 64. One chap reckons it'll be the biggest and best video game in history, which honestly isn't a bad shout at all, is it? Others are debating the merits of the N64's expansion pack and looking forward to a cracking lineup of games like Wipeout 64, Quake 2, Turok 2, and Perfect Dark. The Letter of the Month winner praises the longevity of N64 games over those on the PlayStation and weighs in on the Mission Impossible vs GoldenEye debate, making some solid points about how different they are. It's clear the N64 community is passionate and eagerly anticipating the killer titles heading their way. There's also a little note reminding people to write legibly, which is always a bonus. This You Reckon column features reader feedback on Banjo-Kazooie, with some praising the game, and others criticizing it as overrated. A reader, Namcock, criticizes third-party N64 developers for not pushing the hardware, citing texture problems, and comparing their output unfavorably to games like Tekken 3. Other topics include developer video content release, N64 vs. Sane's difficulty, reader-reviewer suggestions, and game store exchanges. A reader inquired about review speed and editor life, and another section, Dim-Witted, reveals a GoldenEye trick to spot enemies through TV setting adjustments. Finally, a Trading Places segment seeks reader submissions of Nintendo-themed shop names. The N64 Pro database has updated scores for various games. Top-scoring shooters include GoldenEye, 007, 96%, Forsaken, 90%, and Body Harvest, 93%. Other notable shooters receive scores ranging from 58%, Aerofighter's Assault, to 71%, Doom 64, and Duke Nukem. Racing games fare less well, with some classics like Cruisin' USA scoring poorly, 41%. Lilac Wars, despite being a shooter, is also included in the racing section and gets a high score, 91%. Overall, the database reflects a re-evaluation of the N64 game library, with both high praise and criticism of different titles. The N64's racing games are highly praised, with Diddy Kong Racing, Mario Kart 64, Wave Race, and F1 World Grand Prix scoring 91% or higher. F-Zero X, despite simpler graphics, also receives a high score. However, some racers like M.Air Circa and GT64 don't reach the same level. Fighting games fare more mixed. Mortal Kombat 4 is well regarded, 85%, as are Biofreaks and Fighter's Destiny, both 82%. Conversely, Dual Heroes and Mortal Kombat Mythologies receive very low scores. Other fighting games, like Clay Fighter and War Gods, also receive poor ratings. Both. Please provide the text you would like me to summarize. Bunny v. Durangton Zune. This page kicks off with the Hall of Fame, showing the absolute top 10 games ever, and look at that, IS-98 is sitting right at the top with GoldenEye and Banjo-Kazooie hot on its heels. Below that, there's a whole swathe of reviews covering everything from the Nagano Winter Olympics, which sounds like a good laugh, to various hockey, basketball, American football, and wrestling games. NHL 99 gets a warm welcome as a new entry, while WCW/NWO Revenge sounds like the wrestling to go for. NFL Blitz is still a firm favorite apparently. Then we dive into the RPG/adventure section, highlighting Mission Impossible, which despite delays turned out rather well, and Quest 64, which sadly sounds a bit dull compared to Zelda. The miscellaneous section is brief, giving us a look at the unique air borders. Finally, there's the imports section, a must-read for anyone brave enough to tackle Japanese text and use a converter. For Mr. 64 and Augusta Masters are the top picks here, proving some great stuff stayed overseas, followed by a long list of other imports covering various genres with scores all over the place. Some sound like they're worth seeking out, while others are probably best left to the incredibly dedicated. Rampage World Tour gets a rather brutal 33% score, suggesting it's best forgotten. Fair enough. Issue 17 of the magazine promises a Body Harvest Guide Part 2 including a free video. Reviews are previewed for Star Wars, Rogue Squadron and South Park 64. Other features include a Michael Owens World League Soccer blueprint and a Jet Force Gemini spotlight. The cheat zone focuses on Rally Edition 99. A large section advertises special reserve offers, sales, and free gifts with purchase, such as mini consoles and a head wallet. The issue goes on sale January 7th.